Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful day because today on the program, we are doing computer and technology news. That's right, both segments, computer and technology news. We have a lot of great stories and some updates to some of the ones that we did yesterday. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, not going to hold up the show for very long. Just want to mention a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That is our website. That is our home. And if you want to find out anything that happens here on Computer America, with Computer America, about Computer America, that would probably be your best place to go. So you can find that at computeramerica.com, along with the show notes for today, as well as the live video feed, and of course, our social media contest. All that and more right there at our website. So I think with that being said, we're just going to go ahead, jump right into the news because we have a lot of stories and, an hour is much shorter than you think. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. All right. Now, I think our first story is going to be a follow-up, and I'll call it a heated debate. What happened in my household over a story that we did yesterday, and I think it was picked up by the news yesterday in general, but there's a lot more to the story. This is an update from the story about a pair of babies, two little girls in China, who were claimed to be, or at least the doctor who did the in vitro fertilization, claimed to be one of the first, or at least claimed to be the first genetically modified babies using CRISPR, which is a technology we've talked about on the show before, but essentially it's a way of splicing out very accurate segments of the DNA, and you are able to fix, certain things. So you're able to, let's say in this case, I believe the doctor was hoping to remove part of the genome that allowed HIV to take hold in a person. And he was able to remove that, edit that, and so far he hopes he is going to reduce the risk that these two girls are going to have the ability to contract HIV. So this was done in the name of science. This was done in the name of bettering society. I saw the video. He was very unapologetic for what he did. He didn't say, I'm sorry to the two girls. I'm sorry to the mother for doing this. He said, this is a technology that people need, and I'm willing to take the criticism of the world and give this to people because he felt this was something that needed to be done. So when I said that this was a heated debate, I believe a debate actually goes back and forth. This was more, having, I'm not going to go into the details about exactly what we talked about, but essentially it was, if this can help people, then why not? Let's do some guinea pigging. So an update to this was the co-inventor. So obviously someone had to come up with the idea of CRISPR. The co-inventor of CRISPR responds to the claim of the first genetically edited babies. And by the way, that would be Dr. Jennifer Doudna, who's a professor of chemistry and molecular and cell biology at UC Berkeley and co-inventor of CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing technology, issued the following updated statement. And this is a quote, and these were some of the, and this is obviously something that, she probably penned in an email, but quote, "It is imperative that the scientists responsible for this work fully explain their break from the global consensus that application of CRISPR-Cas9 for human germline editing should not proceed at the present time. It is important for the public to consider the following points." So this is what the inventor of this technology feels are some of the inherent risks for actually doing this on people. Saying that the first one, the clinical report has not been published in the peer-reviewed scientific literature. So that means that, scientists try not to get things wrong. They try to be very, very analytical about things. They try to be as thorough as they can. But the point of peer review is that, people are prone to making mistakes. People are prone to accidentally doing things. And that's why peer review is so important, is because you replicate it, you try it yourself, you come up with different explanations for your outcomes. Peer review, very important in science, and this had not been peer reviewed yet. The second point, because the data had not been peer reviewed, the fidelity of the gene editing process cannot be evaluated. So obviously, doing this by any means in a person, that, it hasn't even gone to clinical trial, let alone anything like this. And then number 3, and this is probably one of the most important ones and one that we covered yesterday, the work as described to date reinforces the urgent need to confine the use of gene editing in human embryos to cases where a clear unmet medical need exists and where no other medical approach is a viable option, as recommended by the National Academy of Sciences. So very blatantly, the first and foremost thing has to do with, of course, the doctor was hoping to prevent the 2 girls from catching HIV. Now, contracting it in the first place, you definitely want to avoid that. But there are different options other than editing a person's DNA to actually get that done. And that can come from anything from protection to, just simple avoidance. There are a lot of ways to not actually, catch HIV. And to do something so base to a person, to actually take someone's DNA and edit that at the very core, because you really can't go back after you do this. You can't go back and undo it. This is who that person is now, and all in the name of preventing a disease that's fully preventable as we know it. Really, the spread of HIV has more to do with education and access to to different things. Actually, doing this to a person is more on the lines of it's not in the best interest of the person. This is literally more of an experiment. So again, to wrap up the co-inventor of the CRISPR technology, her statement is that it is essential that this news not detract from the many important clinical efforts to use CRISPR technology to treat and cure diseases in adults and children. Public and transparent discussion of the many uses of the genome editing technology must continue, as is happening over the next 3 days at the Human Genome Editing Summit in Hong Kong. So, and that was reported to the Washington Post. That's how she feels. Really, that's a really important part to all this, is that you try to do something, you can say that that these kids are better off for it, but really at the end of the day, there were other options available than to edit DNA. And what he actually did, and trust me, I'm nowhere near a scientist in this regard, but to what he actually did, he actually edited their immune system so that the immune system wouldn't be susceptible to catching HIV. But what fallout could exist from editing someone's immune system? We don't know fully and completely what happens when you remove that one little marker. We know that, hey, it's much harder to catch HIV, but what do we know down the road if these two babies aren't forever immune challenged and are then susceptible to any number of other options, or diseases? It's this is a huge story, and I know I just reported on it yesterday, and I felt like reporting on the update too, because this really is a huge story. Like, I cannot stress just how important this is, because if you want to talk about autonomous cars, which are of course going to be big, if you want to talk about the next best cell phone, or social media use, things like that, I mean, those are all very important for the here and now. But designer babies they're coming. This is going to happen. It's just, did they take a huge leap forward here without anyone actually knowing? So it's a really big story. I definitely wanted to follow up on it. So let's see. Okay, so with that being said, I wanted a good chunk of today to consist of a conversation about Facebook. And by the way, everyone, if you want to join us in the chat room and you'd like to, kind of have some back and forth here at the show when we do computer and technology news, obviously when we have a guest, we try to focus on the guest and, make sure that they have a good time and, kind of talk about what we'd like to talk about with our guest. But, when we're doing computer and technology news, we definitely try to have a back and forth with our audience. So please feel free to join us in the chat room. And this is one of those moments where, hey, if you were in the chat room, you could definitely join us as we're going to give a chunk of time to the idea of Facebook. So a couple more documents came out. We're going to do the first one, which is more of a news story and an update to what Facebook knew, what it actually knew, that cliche. And then we're going to just kind of switch on over to this article from TechCrunch about Facebook's accountability in all of this. And I think that's very important because Facebook, they're providing a service, but at the same time, is that service living up to the hype? Or has this been a decade-long or a decade-plus long experiment that is finally crumbling around our ears? We don't know. We'll go ahead and find out. And so like I said, the first story here is an update to, I guess I can call it election meddling. So Russia and what they were doing with Facebook has become a real topic of conversation. So this is an article from Business Insider saying that the secret Facebook documents said to reveal it was warned about a potentially huge data issue involving Russia back in 2014, as in the ability to analyze vast swaths of the user base and potentially target them for manipulation. And now we're finding out that this wasn't just a problem in 2016. This has been a problem for many, many years. Now, a Facebook engineer warned in 2014 about a potentially huge data issue involving Russia, and that is according to a United Kingdom lawmaker who reviewed a cache of sealed Facebook documents. That's right. And so this is pretty important. They said that the politician reviewed the papers, and it was a stem from a protracted legal battle between Facebook and an app developer named 643. They disclosed the breach at an International Grand Committee hearing on Tuesday, in which Facebook was grilled on its series of scandals. Because obviously, Facebook, if you haven't been paying attention, they're kind of, I would say, losing public trust, but they have lost public trust. It's really one of those things. So they said that summarizing an element of the documents, the politician said that an engineer at Facebook notified, and this is huge. Like this sentence right here. Notified the company in October 2014 that entities with Russian IP addresses didn't even try to go through a VPN, didn't even try to hide the fact that they were pulling the data from Russia, had been using a Pinterest API. So Pinterest, the one with the boards and the pins and all that good stuff. Yeah. Pinterest API key to pull over 3 billion with a B, billion data points a day through the ordered friends API. That's right. So a couple things there. If you don't know what a data point is, let's say my name is Ben, and let's say I work at Computer America. Let's say I am 5'10", because I am 5'10". Fun fact, everyone. But yeah, the fact that Ben is 5'10", my height is a data point. My birthday is a data point. My location is a data point. My, what I like, or my interest, or what I view, or if I have pets, all of these different things are, of course, data points. So imagine you could be, let's say a person could be consisted of a couple hundred data points. Let's be conservative. Obviously, if you have been using social media for a longer amount of time, and if you share a lot with Pinterest or Facebook, and because I think this was pulled from both, but if you if you use these social media services a lot, then your data points are racking up. And this one IP address, so a single, or at least, it was a single IPA key. So an API key. These things are useful for companies who want to build a product. So let's say a company wants to integrate with a Google account. Let's say you already have a Google account and you want to be able to have users log into their Google account through your app, and then automatically fills out everything, and you get to see some data through Google through the app. These keys allow app developers to better integrate with services already there. Normally, you would have to request that you need the data that you are requesting. So they said that this one API key, really you could submit a bogus app that they would review and rubber stamp, at which point you could say that, hey, I need access to friends of friends, and not only friends of friends, but I need access to all of their data as well. And Facebook just said, okie dokie. Here's part of the problem with all of this. And we're going to get into, kind of what Facebook had to say in response to this. But here's my problem with all of that. Just like the election meddling, and I'm using air quotes for everyone out there listening on the radio, but for the election meddling that happened on Facebook, for the fake news advertising that happened on Facebook, for this API key, all of this happened. And I think this is what the conversation is going to be around, that we're going to have here just now, is that none of this was... Okay, it was probably misused, because obviously they had some checks, but they were very weak and they were very automated. But none of this is accidental. Facebook is designed to work this way. These are tools that are completely within the realm of possibility. You can't say, wow, look at this big hole that I accidentally dug with a shovel. The shovel did its job completely. And to say that you dug too far is not a viable response. You simply used a tool as it was designed. That seems to be a common theme for Facebook and all of these different quote-unquote scandals, is that they have been utilized by people with bad intentions and the proverbial keeper of the permissions that we have entrusted. Every time that you log into Facebook and you hit accept that I trust the end user license agreement, the terms of service of Facebook, you're making a contract with Facebook to a certain extent that you trust Facebook with all of your data, and therefore, hey, they're allowed to do this kind of thing. So lawmakers in the UK, and we're going to bring that story up in a second, but lawmakers or news pundits or even just the everyday person or any politician, anyone to be upset that Facebook keeps ending up in the middle of these scandals, they should definitely be upset at Facebook and not anything else, because this is proof that the service itself is the problem and not accidental usage of the platform. This is the platform as it was meant to be used. That is the problem that keeps coming up. Now, to continue on with the article, the politician that went through and found these Russian APIs that were pulling so many data points, he said that he asked Facebook's policy chief, Richard Allen, who was giving evidence in Mark Zuckerberg's place after the CEO refused to show up, whether the matter was reported to an external body at the time. And they have a quote here saying, was that reported, or was this just kept in the family and not talked about? And he said that Allen did not answer the question and said that the information in the documents in Colin's possession was at best partial, at worst misleading. So, yeah, refusing to answer the question might as well be no. So, let's see. Let's go ahead and say, so Colin said that the data was raised in an email from Facebook engineer. He asked Allen to report back to the committee with more information on the matter. Yeah, and of course, the documents that he's talking about, they're in litigation with again this app development studio 643. But essentially, I'm sure anyone who is privy to those could back that up, and they're just not available for the public as of this moment. Kramer was compelled to hand over the documents on a recent visit to London. After initially refusing, he was escorted to Parliament, where he was told he could face a fine or imprisonment if he failed to produce them. Yeah, you don't refuse to hand over documents, and kind of just say, no, I'm good. No, they really want them, especially over there in Parliament. Yeah, so following the hearing, Facebook said it investigated the issue and found no evidence of specific Russian activity as it relates to those in particular. But hey, that's still the topic at hand, and that's still what we're talking about. So let's see. Why don't we go ahead and swap over to this other story again concerning Facebook? And it, same hearing, the UK once again. This time from TechCrunch. I believe the other article was from Engadget, but this one from TechCrunch saying that the problem is Facebook. Lawmakers from 9 countries tell Zuckerberg's accountability stand-in. And that's the point, is that Facebook is the problem. Whether it be fake news, whether it be leaking of customers' data to people who shouldn't be trusted with it, to these massive breaches, Facebook tends to be the problem. As a service, as a company, they are not committed to people. Yes, as Milter Snowflake said in the chat room, saying that it's to gather people's data and doing a fine job of it. That was always Facebook's intention. It was not to bring the world together. It was not to connect people. It was to connect them with the brands that they have, so that advertisers could connect with their audience. They have created a public forum, but that public forum has been corrupted from the inside out. So let's see. In all, parliaments from 9 countries were in the room to put awkward questions to Zuckerberg's stand-in, Policy VP Richard Allen, saying that they also included asking what Facebook is doing to stop WhatsApp being used as a vector to spread political disinformation in South America. Also, why Facebook refused to remove a piece of highly inflammatory anti-Muslim hate speech in Sri Lanka until the country blocked access to its platform, and how Facebook continues to track non-users in Belgium, and how it justifies doing so under the new GDPR. And last one, more generally, why anyone should have any trust in the company, says at this point, with the company neck deep in privacy and trust scandals. They have a trust scandal. It's definitely a problem. No one trusts Facebook. That's the whole hard facts. No one trusts Facebook. No one should trust Facebook. They've proven time and time again that your data, as much as you think of it as your profile on Facebook, you're simply providing the data to Facebook for them to use as they see fit. All those are pretty good. And some of these scandals, I actually remember the one from Sri Lanka. I believe that was one where where the native language, they had, I think, like two translators in that entire arm of the company that ran that organization out of like, I think they had like two translators for the native language to service something like 30 million people or 10 million people, millions upon millions of people actually using the service in Sri Lanka, where there were only two people who could actually read the content that was being posted. And as they said, some of that content was very anti-Muslim, very hate speech, and obviously flew under the radar. You can't track that. If you can't read what's being said, you can't take it down. Little things like that show time and time again that Facebook is, they're not there to promote a healthy conversation by any means. They're there simply to collect data and any byproduct. If you happen to create a massive campaign of misinformation, whoops, that's an unintended consequence, but a very foreseeable one, which is how it happens to be. Let's see. So the article, not going to, a lot of quotes in here, not going to, kind of pull them all here, but why don't we go ahead, wrap up this whole conversation. Let's see if they put all right. So no real good wrap up to this. I think we'll leave the conversation. And of course, anyone out there who would like to reach out and, kind of mention, how you feel about this, live at computeramerica.com if you feel obligated to, but just know that social media in general, I know that's important for businesses. I mean, Computer America still has our Facebook page. We still monitor it. We still make sure people who want to reach out and talk to us definitely feel free to message us on Facebook. And yes, even if you are pissed at Facebook, then you can, of course, tell us on that platform. But we definitely recommend taking it easy. Do not trust everything that you see there. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, your colleagues, anyone else that you may be connected to on Facebook are just as prone to manipulation as anyone else. So it's a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to, say hi to the in-laws and keep in touch with family. But as a source of news, as a source of trusted information, and as a source of your worldview, highly, highly recommend against it. And that includes everything from Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and everything in the like. Just know it's all part of the same thing. That's, I think, all we're going to cover there. And I know that that took quite a while, and we're almost here to the break. But the more I hear about what's happening with Facebook, the more I hear about what's happening with social media in general, it stands to be said again and again. Facebook is not real life. I know it's your friends, and I know that you get to talk to people and that kind of thing, but Facebook and social media in general are not real. Simple as that. So, speaking of not real, how about big old numbers that don't seem real? That seems pretty cool. Why don't we talk about this one from Engadget? Amazon was, hopefully real quick before the break, we'll get the story in. Amazon says that Cyber Monday was its biggest shopping day ever. And for the largest company in the world to say this was its largest shopping day ever, that's a pretty big deal. And hey, kudos to Amazon for not crashing and burning, because we know that sometimes high strain, high stress days, that does tend to happen. So Amazon didn't explode. So Amazon didn't spell out how many products it sold on Cyber Monday in particular, nor how much revenue it generated over the holiday period. However, it revealed a few details from its bumper weekend. And this includes the fact that shoppers bought 4 million electronics and toys through the Amazon app. And of course, underscoring the fact a third of online purchases that day took place through mobile. They have some more about, obviously, the digital assistants were one of the biggest sellers. And hey, they said that Amazon customers bought more than 180 million items from its online store, of course, when they took advantage of the cut price deals. 180 million items. Folks, that's a toy for 1 out of every 2 people went through Amazon. That is incredible. And of course, it didn't say exactly what was purchased, but 180 million, that's huge. So that story being said, why don't we go ahead and go off into break? And when we come right back, we will, of course, talk about, get the story. I found this one weird. I hope you guys like it too. The first sun dimming experiment, as in, yes, they're going to drop particles in the atmosphere to dim the Earth. So this is how it ends. Everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And a quick deviation for everyone out there listening who is simply listening to my voice. Next time you're near your phone, computer, anything like that, obviously, that's hopefully that's within arm's reach. But we're going to deviate real quick here because I was just made aware of this. Everyone out there watching the video, you can see a picture of it. Check out the size of this cow. This thing is massive. It is a massive, massive cow. And for everyone out there who would like to check out what we're actually looking at, its name is Knickers. Knickers. And this big guy lives in Australia. I believe Queensland, if I'm not mistaken. This cow is absolutely massive. Actually, it's a bull. So, it's a male. To give you some rough estimates, that means that this thing weighs about 1,400 kilograms. So in American speak, 1,400 kilograms equals, I think, just under 4,000 pounds, somewhere around there, just under 4,000 pounds, stands at 6'4" at the shoulder. Not even the head, but the shoulder stands 6'4". This thing would tower over anyone. And cows are big already, and this thing is already massive. So I guess it was supposed to go for auction, but actually did not go up for sale. And there you go. They said that I have no words. It's just a massive, massive cow. Check that out. And no, not gene manipulation, not CRISPR or anything like that. It's just a freakishly huge cow, and it's real. Who knew? So, all right, back to the actual news. Other than just holy cow, why don't we discuss again this article having to do with, obviously, not going to get into this, not going to get into whether it's real or not, because we're just going to assume that the vast majority of scientists who have reached a consensus say that global climate change is happening. That's just the way of things. That's how it goes. Now, this published in the Nature Journal of Science. So Nature, the International Journal of Science. This team wants to do something that I think a lot of people would advise against. Obviously you want to take drastic steps to help our environment any way you can. And of course, the gradual heating up of the environment over the past few years, and of course, past couple decades, and even, in fact, since the Industrial Revolution, has been a big problem. Hence, this new plan to help dim the sun. Yes, the first sun dimming experiment will test a way to cool Earth, saying that researchers plan to spray sunlight reflecting particles into the stratosphere, an approach that could ultimately be used to quickly lower the planet's temperature. And if I've learned anything from documentaries such as The Day After Tomorrow, drastic, cataclysmic climate change is a good thing. I kid. But hey, that's it's obviously it's a line of research that they're following, but hopefully it doesn't come to fruition anytime soon. So he says that the idea that humans might turn down Earth's thermostat by similar artificial means is several decades old. It fits into a broader class of planet cooling schemes known as geoengineering that have long generated intense debate and in some cases fear. Obviously, because of, things not going well. They say that among the concerns is that the dimming of the sun could backfire. Who would have thunk it? Or at least strongly disadvantage some areas of the world who, for example, robbing crops of sunlight and shifting rain patterns. Because let's say, like a very good example, we just heard this on the news the other week, the oceans are warming up. That's a fact. And because of that, Maine, here in the United States, Maine is enjoying a lot of fresh lobster. The lobsters are trying to retreat into cooler temperatures, driving them north up the coast, and obviously Maine is enjoying the fruits of the warming oceans because, hey, you're good to go. But over the next couple of decades, over the next couple of years, the oceans are planning to warm another centigrade or whatever, and the lobsters will go even further north into Canada. So let's say, for instance, the oceans do warm up, all the lobsters go north, and all of the economic opportunity generated by the lobsters migrating, or at least just moving to more temperate or cooler waters, all of that now belongs to Canada, and America misses out on that. From a strictly economic point of view, that's one of the issues that they're talking about, is that, hey, what happens when, what's good for, let's say, America's wheat fields happens to be a really, really bad thing because you get torrential downpours and flooding in parts of, northern Africa. Is that right to do? These are the kinds of debates that you have to ask. But as emissions continue to rise and climate projections remain dire, conversations about geoengineering research are starting to gain more traction because, hey, if everything gets too hot, everything starts to wither, if it's an all or nothing kind of situation, maybe, perhaps, one of these drastic solutions is going to be our last possible answer. They said that if all goes as planned, the Harvard team will be the first in the world to move solar engineering out of the lab and into the stratosphere, with a project called the Stratospheric Controlled Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment. I'm sure I messed that up. The first phase, a $3 million test involving 2 flights of a steerable balloon 20 kilometers above the southwest United States, could launch as early as the first half of 2019, saying that once in place, the experiment could release small plumes of calcium carbonate, each of which around 100 grams, roughly equivalent to the amount found in your average bottle of off-the-shelf antacid. Yeah, so we're not even talking about some super foreign entity here, but hey, even water vapor is a greenhouse gas. It doesn't take much of a certain ingredient to, kind of make a big shift. But they said that the balloon would then turn around to observe how the particles disperse, saying that the test itself is extremely modest. And they said that the scientist whose doctoral work over the past 4 years has involved building a tabletop device to simulate and measure chemical reactions in the stratosphere in advance of the experiment does not stress about concerns over such research, saying that he's studying a chemical substance. It's not like it's a nuclear bomb. Although, we've tested nuclear bombs before. And in the United States, the Southwest seems to be a pretty good spot. Sorry, Nevada. But nevertheless, the experiment will be the first to fly under the banner of solar geoengineering. And that's an important part. So, I don't feel like going through this entire thing. Obviously, Nature puts out very, very well-researched articles. This thing is, very all-encompassing, and we're going to go ahead and drop that there. Just know that there are conversations and now experiments, and possibly, if everything has been thought of to the nth degree, and they being policymakers, determine that this is our best chance, hey, maybe humans will actually do a little bit of engineering on the planet as a whole. Could be. There you go. So, man, we have a lot of different stories that we're not getting to. Let's do something a bit more down to earth. No pun intended. How about this one? Pretty simple story. Not a lot to it, but I'm okay with that. Fortnite, you may have heard of it. It's a game that has taken the world by storm. As someone who has played it only very, very rarely, I've definitely watched more than I've seen. I will say that Fortnite has become something of a phenomenon. Everyone plays it, and a lot of people really do enjoy it. I mean, we've seen free-to-play games. We have seen very, very popular games, even in this very genre, but none have been able to catch fire like Fortnite. Yeah, Fortnite. So they said that Fortnite now has over 200 million players. That's right. 200 million players, saying that that's 5 times what the Battle Royale game had in January. So just from the beginning of this year, when people thought 40 million was a big number, now we're sitting at 200 million players. It's crazy. Said that that's a 60% jump from the 125 million players it had in June, so just 6 months ago. You're looking at a 60% jump. Now, not all those players are active, but Epic has recently hit a record of 8.3 million concurrent players. That's pretty big. Even if some of the 200 million users only touch the game once, many others are playing on a frequent basis. 8.3 million concurrent players. I am hesitant to think of another game that's able to do that many concurrent viewers. Or at least players. So they said that it's easy to see why Fortnite would grow so rapidly, and not just because it's free to play. Apart from its presence in the cultural zeitgeist, saying that, and obviously it's mainstream when The Big Bang Theory, Saturday Night Live, and the World Cup players reference it. It's simply available on many more devices than at the start of 2018, because now it's available on iOS. It's available to Android, Switch, and really any console out there, any computer, PC, phone. You can play Fortnite. It has that going for it, and really, with this much success, means that it will be a trailblazer for a lot of games to come, because as much as every game developer wants to do their own thing and wants to bring their own unique vision to the world, when a game is this successful, you have to imitate it. You have to follow success and do what success does. And that would in turn be, in this case, hey, making your product available to everyone regardless of any kind of censorship. So for Epic, the question isn't just whether it can keep growing the user base, but whether it can sustain the interest once growth slows down. It's trying, saying that there are steady stream of limited time modes to spice up gameplay, and the company has poured $100 million into esports tournaments. The developers know that they can't afford to rest on their laurels, and they're willing to spend a lot of cash to keep people coming back. That's right. It's I will say that, like, we've seen other free-to-play games. The one that jumps to mind would be like Dota 2 or League of Legends, where they get very, very big, and we're already starting to see some pullback or some contraction of the market for League of Legends. Dota seems to be doing pretty good on the viewership-wise. I'm not sure much on the player base. I'm sure the player base is still pretty good. All things good must come to an end. I'm not saying that Fortnite is on the way out. I'm not saying that people need to stop playing it. I'm simply saying that this amount of growth is something that we've never seen before. And it's the fact that it wasn't here 2 to 3 years ago, and now it's all anyone can talk about, means that there could possibly be a time in 2 to 3 years where it's not all that we talk about. It could go away. We've seen it before. It can happen again. And yeah, but still, congratulations to Epic and able to grow a user base of 200 million players. I know I myself am one of those. Even if I don't play it that often, still very impressive. So there you go. Like I said, not too much of that one, but worth mentioning. Let's discuss. All right. This one has to do with Google. And before we get started, I'm going to take a quick drink, but this one has to do with Google and the company's secret censored search engine for China. So, we talked about Facebook having some problems with keeping the ethics in technology up to snuff. Obviously, Facebook is very lacking in that. Google could be heading face first into the same problem, all in the name of shareholders. So everyone, one moment. Project Dragonfly. That is the code name. Not saying it's the official end result of China, of the search engine that Google is looking to bring to China. No, trust me, water. It's good for you folks. Drink more water. Let's see. The show's been going on for about 45 minutes. All of you should have drank about 2 ounces of water. Get to work, people. But Google workers openly ask bosses to cancel the company's secret censored search engine for China. This is a real problem. Google is an American company, and we've seen these large tech companies capitalize on the US space, move to Europe, because the US and Europe, they're pretty easy segments to jump back and forth from. They've made that jump, but now they're looking for places to grow. Let's face it, Europe, the only reason that user base is growing is because you have immigrants coming to the Eurozone. The only reason that America is growing is because we have immigrants coming into America. Simply put, there's not a lot of user growth. Kids are getting born, 2 parents are having 1.4 or 1.6 kids, whatever the demographics work out to be. Our population is shrinking. If you are looking to cement your place as a dominant world player, as far as companies go, you need to not sustain your user base, but to grow your user base. Now, where do you go if you want to do that? And again, we're looking at this through the lens of business, because that's the only reason this is happening with Google. Where do you go? You go where there is the population, and the population happens to be growing in China, India, and Africa. Those are 3 places that over the next couple decades are really going to be the focuses on, or really going to be the focus. Wow, that might not have been water. That really might have been vodka. But no, those places will be the focus of these tech companies, and really a lot of companies who really want to make you feel special, but at the same time, they're going to be double timing you two timing you with Africa, India, China. Now, again, all in the name of business. That's why Google, an American company, is creating a secret search engine which can be censored and tracked and cataloged and only deliver certain information that the Chinese government has determined is okay and acceptable for their users to look for. That means that if here in the United States, Google is simply a way to categorize the internet. Any website that you make and you allow Google to troll through, and you say that this website, let's say at Computer America, we are known for podcasting, technology, news, IT information, or information technologies. We're known for those kinds of things. Anytime anyone at Google or anyone uses Google to search for one of those topics, we allow Google to deliver Computer America to anyone who wants to hear about us. The way that Project Dragonfly would work is that the search results are not just the sum of allowable searches, but in fact are only approved and preordained results for said searches. If you want to look up, Chinese human rights violations, maybe the China, and I'm saying maybe, very, very lately, because it's most certainly will, the Chinese government will be able to deliver you a full page of how China is supportive of its people, and they would never commit personal rights, travesties, atrocities, what have you. Two very different missions than what Google does here in the United States as opposed to what it does in China. So a spokesperson for Google said that the company had no new comment on the workers' letter, but pointed BuzzFeed News to a previous statement saying that, quote, "We've been investigating for many years to help the Chinese users from developing Android through mobile apps such as Google Translate and Files Go and our developer tools. But our work on search has been exploratory, and we are not close to launching a product in China, or at least a search product in China." So by the way, one of the quotes from the letter is that, quote, "Our opposition to Dragonfly is not about China. We object to technologies that aid the powerful in oppressing the vulnerable, wherever they may be." So while they are talking about Project Dragonfly, which is again a search engine destined for China, they're talking about Google lending its vast expertise to provide a tool that would ultimately be used to oppress the people from getting the information that they search for. That's their point. Now, months ago, hundreds of Google workers had already signed their names to a letter demanding more transparency about whether their work was going to be used in ethically acceptable ways. We saw that with Google's work in using drones to track people. And those drones were being used by the military. The military, of course, having many, many purposes. Some of those include, of course, ultimately killing people. And Google employees were vehemently against the idea that their work that they were doing to, as they thought, help people, help society, would one day be used strictly to take someone's life. It's these kinds of conversations that are happening on the employee level, and we're talking thousands of employees all taking to Google and saying, hey, we don't feel that you as a company are doing this right. That's very important. I love the fact that Google employees are doing this. Because you know what? That's the exact type of conversation that needs to be happening with Facebook. Way at the beginning of the show, when we talked about that segment with Facebook having a lack of ethics. These are the kinds of conversations that those privy to the plans and the potential for the technology need to discuss with their bosses. And admittedly, yay for Google for at least hearing them out, and good job on the employees for being able to voice their opinion in such a concise way with a simple letter. I hope that the pressure remains and it stays, because if they don't speak out against this, then the fruits of the labor, the fruits of becoming the world's largest search engine and being able to do all this are going to be at the hands of the highest bidder. And generally, the people with the biggest, deepest pockets are governments, are militaries, are people who have a maybe not the best interest of of society in general in mind. Now, let's see. So at the time the letter was published, 12 Googlers. Is that what Google employees call themselves? Googlers? 12 Googlers had signed their names to the letter. The workers said that they would be updating their posts with additional signatures as they come in. And by this afternoon, about 200 employees had signed the letter, where the number of signatures are growing fast and at one point appearing to double in an hour. So, we have the article. We have the article actually here in BuzzFeed, in the BuzzFeed article, and you can read it in its full if you want. But essentially, they're saying that for Google, so for Google to be helping the Chinese government, or really any government or any powerful dictatorial regime, to oppress its people through the use of their technology, all for the sake of finally getting a foothold in what could potentially be seen as a huge moneymaker for them. It's putting profits before people. It's putting your shareholders ahead of society in general. And as good as that may sound, you can look at what's happening at Facebook. They turn themselves into a hundreds of billions dollar company, but now look at them. They are reeling with the fact that, hey, the fact that you never, or at least it appears, you never really thought what could happen. Is this actually good? Is what we're doing actually a good thing? That's something that they're now struggling with, to prove that they're actually respectful and can be trusted with the power that they've been able to accumulate. So I like that companies are able to, or at least employees of companies are able to take that conversation back to the places that they work for. Google is a very good example of that. Wow, we really don't have a lot of time. So some of the stories we didn't get to. I wanted to get to Project Fi. It has to do with Google, but won't be able to do that. How about this last one? And then we're going to have to call it a day because we have only seconds left. Widely used open source software contained Bitcoin stealing backdoor. That's right, malicious code that crept into event stream JavaScript libraries. It's always JavaScript. JavaScript libraries went undetected for weeks, saying that, and let's see, so this was part of the, so I believe this was an app called Copay, which is a company that incorporated event stream into its app. and they said that a blog post published went live where any version between version 5.0.2 through 5.1.0 were affected with the backdoor, and yeah, anyone should avoid running the app until after installing version 5.2.0. So if you use a product called Copay, be careful. Bitcoin could be stolen if it has not been updated. Always keep your software up to date. Everyone, we're flat out of time. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show today. Tomorrow, be sure to check us out 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, as we of course talk with Scott Schober. He is our cybersecurity expert. His face pops up all over the place, including news, television, and he is a well-respected industry expert on cybersecurity. Happy to have him here on the show as we talk all things security. And hey, we may even be talking cryptocurrency a little bit because that's an interesting space right now. Everyone, be good, be safe, catch us here tomorrow, and hey, thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.